Hi everyone and welcome to NameHero.com. In today's video tutorial, I want to talk about WordPress 5.0. So this has been a long time coming that WordPress 5.0 was coming out, and I've got some videos on our YouTube channel and some posts on our blog talking about it. I think most notably the big thing about it is they've replaced their core editor with a new feature called Gutenberg. This is a new kind of visual editor that allows you to kind of drag and drop stuff and use a block editing system. So really every paragraph you add is a block. And I'd installed the Gutenberg plugin on another one of my blogs and showed an example of it on our YouTube channel. So you might want to check that out. But going forward in WordPress 5.0, that is the editor. So it's definitely a big change. Now, it literally just came out. WordPress 5.0 was just released maybe an hour ago from the time I'm doing this video, so it's extremely new. Now, because this is such a big update, I don't believe WordPress is going to be pushing this out automatically, at least yet. They're going to give it some time. Most notably, I want to see more of the plugins come up to speed with it, because if you check a lot of the plugins that you use, if you use a lot of plugins on your site, you can see a lot of them aren't yet compatible with WordPress 5.0. And with it being such a big update, I would just feel better about doing that once those plugins get up to speed. Now, if you don't use any plugins, then of course you can go ahead and do it. But in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how you should go about updating your website, because of course it is very important to keep your WordPress core files, your themes and plugins all updated, because it can be a security risk if not. So I'm going to show you on this website, on this tutorial, how I would go about it if it's my website, and also how I'm going to be going about it on my own websites. So yeah, feel free to follow along here. The first thing that I want you to do before you do anything is to get a backup. So now if you're taking a backup, remember, once you pull that backup, that's how your files are. So if you're having edits and stuff, you want to schedule this during a time when you have low traffic, you're not adding new content and all that stuff, because of course once the backup's taken, anything after that backup is not generated. So I want to show you that, and then I'm going to show you how to set up a staging environment, so you can actually install this on a staging environment and see if it breaks your site, or see how the update goes before doing it in a live environment. So right now I'm on the main page of NameHero. I've got the WordPress 5.0 page up here, and you can see December 6th, that is today, WordPress version 5.0, name for the jazz musician Bebo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was released to public. So you can see here, this is going to list the new changes. So we got, and you can read all this stuff too, but the new block editor is the big one, Gutenberg. If we're going down here, the new default theme 2019 is out. They've got the classic editor if you prefer to stick with it. They're going to keep supporting it through 2021. So this is good news. If you don't like the Gutenberg editor and want to stick with the classic one, you can. And there's developer stuff. So that's the major changes, and I'm sure there's a whole host of other things in there that you can go through and look at. So make sure you do check that out so you can learn more about 5.0. But now I'm going to show you how to go about updating your site, or kind of the steps you should take when you're ready to take this step. So I'm going to log into my NameHero client area. If you want to follow along, you can hover over account and click login. And that's going to take me to my NameHero dashboard like this. So I went ahead and logged in to spare you having to wait for that. So you want to find cPanel. So I'm going to click Cloud Web Hosting. And I'm going to be demonstrating on my Turbo Cloud package today for keydiets.com. So that's what I'm going to click on. And this brings up my dashboard. Now, if you're using a reseller account, you want to navigate to the cPanel of the account you're about to work on. And that's the same, if you're instructing your customers. But this is a basic hosting account. So under Actions, you're going to see my cPanel is right here. So I'm going to click Login. Now, if we're just going to be setting up staging and all that, we don't so much have to worry about this. But before I push out a huge update to any of my sites, I always take a full backup. At NameHero, we do complimentary backups nightly, and you can see those down here under Backup Administration. You can click CP Remote Dashboard, and this account is actually a new one, so I don't have any backups in here, but you should see these under Restore Domain, because it's got the option to restore a domain, restore a database, restore an email account, or restore a file or folder. So you can go in there and check and make sure you have a backup. Now, at NameHero, we only retain 1 day's worth of data. So, and we do this about 2 o'clock in the morning, Central Time is when we take these backups. And that's an average. Sometimes it's midnight, sometimes it's 3 or 4 a.m. So, any changes made after that, we'll go into the next backup. So you want to make sure to take in consideration when the backup was taken. And that's why I like to take our own. We also have Drop My Site backups integrated. And that's an extra service that if you've paid for it, Name Hero, you can go to cPanel and you go to Website Backup. It's right here, and this stores up to 30 days of your website data. So you can go back all the way to 30 days. So yeah, that's a good option. If you don't have it added to your account and you'd like it, feel free to contact our sales team. You can also add it though in here, upgrade, downgrade options. You can add Drop My Site inside of here if you want to add that to your account without having to contact sales. But you can contact the sales team and talk to them about it, or get more direction if you need it. But that's just right here inside your Name Hero interface under upgrade, downgrade options. So that's the Name Hero backups, the Drop My Site backups. But when you're doing big changes like this, I always like to see you do your own backup. That way you have it. The quickest way is to click Backup here and to download a full website backup. Now, a full website backup, this can actually be restored by our team. So let's say you do this and you mess it up and you need it restored. Well, you can easily have it restored by our team. So what you do to get this is just click Download a Full Backup. And you can put it in the home directory or send it to a remote server. So if you have another hosting account somewhere, another server, you can send it to there. Or you can just do one in your home directory. That's what I'm going to do here. And you put your email address so it emails you when it's finished. Now, if your website is bigger than 20 gigabytes of space or using 100,000 or more inodes, this process will not run in your interface because that would decrease the performance on the node that you're on. So we do have to have limits to when we allow these to be created. So if that is your situation, please get in contact with us so we can talk about how you can back up your site. If I go back, you can see this backup's already generated. So this is a full backup of this entire website. So I can click here and download it. And this is going to download it to my computer. And that way, I've got the Name Hero complimentary backups. If you've had Drop My Site backups, you have those. And then you have one on your computer. And so, see, that's just a three-pronged approach to make sure before you do anything that you have your website safe and secure. There's nothing like just having that file on your desktop and keeping it until you're making sure everything is all right. So, again, this is all the changes, I just downloaded that backup. Any changes made to the website won't be on that. So, of course, you don't want to generate or download that until you're ready to do this process. So if you're just going to be doing staging today or actually looking at maybe upgrading, you might want to hold off on this. But once you do have this on your computer, I recommend deleting this. You don't want to keep this around in your home directory. So to do that, we go back to cPanel. We go to File Manager, and you can see that backup's right here. And you just want to go ahead and delete it. You don't want to stack those up and skip the trash and permanently delete it. And that way it's just gone. Some customers will have lots of backup files, and it can be a security risk. And also it just junks up your home directory. So you don't want to keep those on inside your home directory for any length of time. So please make sure that you do that, once you get it on your computer. So now we've got that. Next, I'm going to go in and set up a staging directory for my current WordPress site. So I'm going to go down here and go to the Softaculous apps installer. I'm going to click on it. And you can see I've got WordPress installed. Now, if your WordPress is not installed with Softaculous, we do have guides and tutorials on our blog and in our help center on how to add it in there. So feel free to search for those if it's not. I would say most of our customers already have them in here. But if you don't, you definitely want to add that in there. And I think there's also a way that you can go in here and you can search for WordPress. And I think you can discover it. Let's see. Say import. See if you can click from this server and you can type in the URL and it'll actually import it for you into here. So there's several different ways to do that. But I like to use Softaculous because it's got our staging and stuff on it too. So you're going to want to use that, especially doing such a large update here. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to my WP admin really quick. And this is keydiets.com, my example domain. And you can see now WordPress 5.0 is available. Please update now. So if we go here, the first thing it tells us is take a backup. So if you don't know how, we took one just now by downloading it, but you can click this link here and they will talk about how to back up your data. So you can go through here and this will walk you through backups. Let's see. Yep. So it shows you the PHPMyAdmin, cPanel. Where's the cPanel one? cPanel PHPMyAdmin, PHPMyAdmin. Let's see, where's the files? Back up your database, back up your WordPress site. Okay, yeah, so there's instructions there as well. We also have a blog. If you just search the best way to back up your WordPress website, there's a blog I wrote a while ago on how to duplicate it using Transmit. If you're using a Mac, you can use the Transmit FTP program and duplicate the folder that WordPress is installed in. And then you can also duplicate your database in PHPMyAdmin. So there's several ways to go about doing a backup. So this is a manual way. If you're unable or don't want to do that full backup, you can back up just WordPress. And I also list in this post, there's some plugins you can use from WordPress that make this easy. Of course, there's also managewp.com. There's so many options, but I think the long story short here is have a backup before you go installing 5.0 because it is such a major update. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set up a staging installation so I can mirror my exact site and do it on the staging environment to make sure it doesn't break before, of course, I push it out live. Now, before we do that, before we set up the staging environment, there's one thing I want you to do is I want you to go into your dashboard and go to your plugins. And if you're using Lightspeed Cache, which a lot of our customers are using it, before you create the staging environment, I just ask that you deactivate it. Lightspeed Cache, it caches your site. So in short, it keeps from every time someone hits the site, they don't have to reload the static and dynamic resources of the site. When we do a staging environment, sometimes this can actually cause it to bug up because it's specific to where it's installed, Lightspeed is. So I just recommend deactivating it before you stage the site. You can leave everything else, but at least Lightspeed Cache, deactivate it. So once that's done, we can go back into Softaculous. And we can click this, the to paper here. It looks like kind of a refresh, and it's the staging area. And we're going to set up a staging area for 5.0. So this takes your exact site and duplicates it and puts it in another folder on another database. So you're not actually messing with the live site. You can also delete the staging area. If you say, well, shoot, it broke my site, I don't want to do this for, a couple more days, then, there's nothing lost there. So, and you might want to do this, even if you don't want to mess with the backups now. Set up a staging environment and test it out. So first we choose our protocol. I'm using HTTPS. I'm going to get an error here because this account's brand new. I just set this up. But of course, HTTPS works. I can verify that on my site here. You can see I'm using HTTPS here. So we can ignore that. It's a false positive. Okay, my domain's Key Diets. Now this is the directory where I want to stage in. So I'm just going to call it WP5. Remember, you can't use any special characters in here, so you couldn't use a period or any special characters that would break it. The database name can be whatever. You could just call this. You can leave it default, or you could do WP5 test or what have you. Okay, we click Create Staging. And so now this takes a complete copy of my site. So if I go to keydietsnow.com/WP5, I have an exact replica of my site. So this window is my exact site, and this is my staging area. See, they look exactly the same. And the same for the admin area. So if I go into the dashboard here, and I can go into my dashboard here, and they will look exactly the same. So here is where it gets important. Make sure you're in the staging one. Go look at the URL and make sure you are in the staging URL and not in your live site, because that would be very bad. So to make sure, I'm just going to close it out. Okay, so now I'm in the staging site, and I can go to Update Now. And if I just want to do this really quick, I can just click Update Now, go to 5.0. Now, again, this is a big release. This takes a little bit longer than it normally would to run. Other updates are kind of patches and add on to the core base, or kind of replace a couple files. 5.0 is we're going to be replacing a lot of files, so it's going to take just a little bit longer to run. So while that runs here, let's go back here and look at this here. I wanted to mention here, database version is updated. That's nothing big. And I wanted to see what their closed tickets was on this. So you can see they have a bunch of stuff as it went on. Now, if you want to nerd out like I would, I'd want to go through some of these and read them. But that's the cool thing about the WordPress community, is everyone comes together to help develop this project. Okay, now done with that, and we're up to date. So welcome to 5.0. Thank you for last version. This is going to show you what's new. Gutenberg, the new editor. So, again, I think this is going to be the biggest thing that people are going to notice and talk about is the editor. So they've got the classic editors. Let's talk about that. So now this is updated. Again, we're in the staging. If I go to my post, go to all post, and I look at an example one, so I've got an example multiple paragraph post, you can see it looks completely different than it used to. I've got here's my title of the post, and my body still has this classic editor. So pages and posts that were created using the classic editor will automatically have this kind of classic editor in it. So it doesn't actually take your existing pages and posts and put it in the Gutenberg editor. So that's nice, right? So you don't have to learn anything new. Now when I go to make a new post, it's going to be the Gutenberg editor. This is a new post. So see, we're in Gutenberg now. And again, the big thing is every paragraph has its own block. So if we just type in test, we push enter, it creates another block, test 2, and so forth and so on. See, each paragraph's in its own block. That's the big difference about it. So, it's kind of not kind of different. It's a lot different. But now I can publish, and I could go to my site, my test site, and look at it. Here's what it looks like on here when I made the post. Now, if you say, I hate this, I want to go back to the custom editor, we can go to the dashboard. We go to plugins, add new, and we can type in classic, and classic editor's here, and we can install this and activate it. And then we go to make new post, it looks just like it did. And so I think they said they're going to support this through 2021. So, you've got 3 years or so, 4 years to get it. I guess 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. So you've got a while. You can use the classic editor still. So if you absolutely hate it, you can go back to it. What I don't want to see a lot of people doing is I don't want to see people not update WordPress because of the editor, because they do have the option to use the classic. It's very important that you keep WordPress up to date. So it is important to do that, and you have this option to use the classic editor. If nothing else. Now, another thing that you might want to check on is before you go, pushing this out to your live site, is you want to look at your plugins. So you can hover over appearance plugins, installed plugins, and you can click view details by these, and it shows you what versions that they're compatible to. So for example, Classical Editor is compatible up to 5.0. If I go down here to Lightspeed Cache, for example, it's only compatible up to 4.9.8. I'm assuming this is going to change probably in the next week, but you might want to wait. Now this is not saying that it won't work, because we can actually activate it. Let's see if it'll activate here. Activated Lightspeed Cache, and let's go look at the site. Blog, visit site. You can see it's working. It looks just fine. But since it's not compatible fully, that means it hasn't been tested completely by their developers. So there could be issues, right? You could have some issues with 5.0. So, and this is a very popular plugin that a lot of our customers use. So remember, we deactivated it when we made the staging environment, but we just reactivated it. And I'm not seeing any issues right now, but that's not to say I won't come across some. But once you do upgrade WordPress to the new version, you can go back to a backup. You have to fail over to it, but it's better to, once you upgrade it, to leave it that way. And so that's why it's so important to do this on a staging and to check it out before you go live. So that's what I did here. I don't see any issues, but if you use a lot of plugins, some of them might have some major issues with 5.0. So it's good to check those. This is WP example content. This is something I use just to generate dummy content. WP rollback, let's see what's theirs, 4.8.7. So, a lot of plugins, since this did just come out today, are not going to be compatible yet with it, but some of the more popular ones will be. So if you use a lot of plugins to your site, you might want to kind of hold off, or at least, do this staging thing and see, how your site responds to it. But you can see with my staging here, nothing looks too amiss. But again, I do have a very basic website set up here with it, not a ton of content, not a lot of plugins. So it's kind of, based on your scenario. If you have a basic site, you're probably just fine. If you have more complex, then you might want to test it. But again, that's the beauty of the staging environment is, everything looks good. So, once you're ready to go live, I do recommend deactivate the Lightspeed Cache, because once we push it back to live, it could cause some issues for you. But yeah, once you're good with it, we can go back to Softaculous, and we can go back to WordPress, and we go down here, we can click this button here, the push to live. And this is going to take that staging environment and put it to our live site. So I push to live, just takes a second. And boom, So now Key Diets is using the new WordPress. So we can verify this by going to our dashboard, clicking updates, and you can see we are running 5.0. And we can, of course, reinstall it here if we notice anything. But since we tested it, it looks good. If I go to the site, it's now live. We're using 5.0, and everything looks like it should. I'm not seeing any issues, so it looks like we're good here. So, this was a really simple and easy transition to 5.0. Again, you've got that classic editor if you want to use it. If you don't want to use it, or you say, well, I want to try Gutenberg, just deactivate it. And then, of course, you can start using Gutenberg right away. See, it's ready to go. So, I think that's the biggest thing in this update, as well as some functionality of some of your plugins and stuff. So again, if, your site breaks, you want to look at those plugins, and, it wouldn't hurt to go over and when you're looking at your plugins and, checking that. But again, I think a lot of them will come up to date soon. But if you have a plugin you really rely on, you might want to check with the developer. This is to generate dummy content, so it's not a big one. It's only compatible to WordPress 4.1, so it's an old plugin. But I just use this to generate some sample pages here for you all for this video. So, but if you're using a plugin that you rely on heavily and it's not updated, you definitely want to get with that developer to ask them, do you plan on updating it or what? Because if they don't, then you probably want to get rid of it. You want to be using plugins that are up to date with the latest version of WordPress, and that's the same with your themes too. If you're using custom themes, which I'm using just a free one here, get with your developer and ask them, are you coming out with an update for it? Most of the well-known developers out there, the Genesis framework, Divi, all those developers, they're very well aware of 5.0 and they've got updates and stuff available. So, but if you're using a theme that came from a custom developer or it was a different situation, you want to check with them. You can see the other themes here. They've actually got updates available now. We could go back to dashboard updates, and we could update those. If you're using any of these default themes, I don't think a lot of people use these because they look like crap in my opinion, but it's still good to keep everything updated in your WordPress. You don't want to have any notices. Now, it is important to note, because we push this out live, we still have our staging environment. Let me go back to here. This is my staging window. So you can see this is still there. I could go back and make changes and push it out again. And you can see too, it also tells us what pages were developed to the classic editor, or this is what post, same with pages though. It'll show you, these pages and posts were with the classic editor. So these are posts made before 5.0. Once you're finished with the staging environment though, you do want to delete it because leaving outdated WordPress installs can be dangerous as well. So, once you're finished with the staging environment, you just click the X, and we check all of this automatically checks to confirm, and we remove it. And so then that gets rid of the staging environment. And now our website's live on just regular Key Diets. We're using WordPress 5.0, and we're all set. Again, we confirm by going to updates, and we can see we are up to date. So that's how I go about doing it. Again, before you go doing all this, I do recommend taking a backup. We have Name Hero backups. You can have Drop My Site backups, have one on your computer, just so you have all your bases covered. Because what I don't want to see in the support desk, and I'm sure I'm going to see it, is, people went and updated and stuff broke. They don't have backups, and then it comes into this whole mess. So, have backups. But then utilize a staging environment. That's why we have it here at Name Hero. Stage your site, update the site in the staging environment, see if it works, see what happens, and then you can always, decide to put it off a little longer, go contact your plugin developers, get updates for that, or find alternative plugins and all that stuff. So, utilize this feature and make sure you do this the right way so it's a painless and easy process for you. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on this video. I'm going to put a post on the blog too that you can ask questions on too, and I'd be more than happy to personally respond to you and help you out with this. But it's certainly an exciting day for the whole WordPress community. I'm excited for them. At first, I hated the Gutenberg editor. It's grown on me since. I think it's really going to open up a lot of doors for WordPress because it's going to make it easier for a lot of development for some people that, are not as tech savvy, computer savvy. It just kind of simplifies the editing process. And of course, they have the classic editor too. So you can continue to using that till 2021. So thanks so much for watching and using us here at NameHero.com.